Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The discussion concerning the compilation of the Holy Qur'an is without a doubt one of the most important historical discussions within the religion of Islam, and indeed a discussion that requires a thorough dissection, for it's a discussion from which many important historical lessons may be learnt and many important theological examples may be observed. The preservation of the Holy Qur'an in the early years of the religion of Islam is without a doubt one of the central and most important areas of the religion. Understanding how the Qur'an was collected, how it was compiled, how it was protected in the face of a religion that was spreading far and wide is without a doubt a topic of great interest. We know that after the Holy Prophet had passed away, the religion of Islam within a period of 30 years had spread as far as Azerbaijan and Armenia. You therefore found that the different dialects that came to read the Holy Qur'an varied from one group to another. The question arises as to who exactly compiled the Qur'an for all of these people at the time. As in, if you were to ask many Muslims in the world today, who compiled the Qur'an, this Qur'an that we have with us today, who exactly compiled it, you find that the answers which the Muslims give vary from one person to another. As in, even in this hall today, if I were to ask you, who do you think compiled the Qur'an, you'll find that the answers will vary. You may find some who say the Qur'an was compiled in the time of the Holy Prophet. Others who may turn around and say, no, not at all. After the Prophet died, straight away the Qur'an was compiled, for example, by Abu Bakr. Others will turn around and say, no, not even Abu Bakr. Others will turn around and say the Qur'an was compiled by Uthman bin Affan. Because we know very well that the Qur'an that we have with us today is called the Uthmani Codex. It's called the Uthmani Codex because of the importance of the role of Uthman bin Affan in making one official codex of the Qur'an. Therefore, when people ask the question, who compiled the Holy Qur'an, you find that sometimes the reply comes as Uthman. And without a doubt, Uthman's period of caliphate is vital in the history of the compilation of the Qur'an. Because it was in Uthman's time that many Qur'ans were burnt and only one Qur'an remained official. Uthman ordered that a number of the Qur'ans around the Muslim world were to be burned completely, and that there was only meant to be one official codex of the Qur'an read by Zayd bin Thabit in Medina. Therefore, somebody asked the question that was it Uthman who compiled the Qur'an? Was it Abu Bakr who compiled the Qur'an? Or was the Qur'an compiled by other than them? Let's seek to examine this question in tonight's analysis by looking at exactly what are the arguments for Abu Bakr's compilation of the Qur'an, what happened at the Battle of Yamama that made Umar ibn al-Khattab ask Zayd bin Thabit to compile, why did Uthman bin Affan ask for a recompilation of the Qur'an, and what was the Uthmani Codex discussing? Also, what was Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib's stance when it came to the burning of the Qur'ans? What are the proofs that the Qur'an was compiled in the time of the Holy Prophet? And also, if Uthman compiled the Qur'an, then why is it that the Muslims ended up killing him as their caliph in Medina? Let's examine this and seek to dissect this topic in complete depth. The first argument that's normally given as to who compiled the Qur'an is Abu Bakr, without a doubt. You find that Abu Bakr's name is in great prominence when it comes to the person who compiled the Qur'an. For what reason? We know very well that when the Holy Prophet died, there were two groups of the companions as soon as the Prophet died. One group went off to bury the Prophet, as in they felt it was their duty that the greatest man who ever lived on this earth deserves for his best friends to be there at his burial. As in, if I'm now going to pass away, I'd think that my best friends would be with me in my burial. I would never think that my best friends would be elsewhere in the burial. You find that when the Prophet passed away, there was a handful of the Sahaba, out of 100,000 who claimed they loved him, a handful of them who went to his funeral to perform the shrouding and the burial. Another group of them went and gathered where? They went and gathered at the hut of the Saqifa. They went there to gather. Why? Because they had heard that the Ansar were about to appoint a leader for themselves. So this group that went there decided that they should be the ones who look after the issue of leadership. You found that when Umar pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr, what was their argument? Their argument was that Abu Bakr and Umar are from the Muhajirun, and the Muhajirun have a greater right than the Ansar. When Abu Bakr became Khalifa, through that election that took place at the Saqifa, an election where many of the electors were not present, as soon as he became Khalifa, he faced two problems as Caliph straight away. The first problem was Ali ibn Abi Talib's lovers who wouldn't pay zakat to him. What do we mean? You see, many people ask me the question that if Imam was chosen on the day of Ghadir, why did nobody stand up for Ali ibn Abi Talib after Rasulullah died? No, there were companions who stood up for Ali ibn Abi Talib. But those companions were silenced by the sword of Khalid ibn al-Walid. Let me explain. What happened was, amongst those companions, a companion of Rasulullah, Malik bin Nuwayra. Malik bin Nuwayra was the archetypal Arab gentleman. A brave man, a man of great poetry, a beautiful looking man, and a man of generosity. As in, if you were to read about Malik bin Nuwayra, you would find Malik used to be a man known for one particular trait. He used to always make sure that there was smoke coming out from the chimney of his house, so that just in case someone walked past the house and they were hungry, they'd know that there's food cooking in this house. So he'd welcome all of the poor into his house. He at the time was the head of Bani Yarbu', and Bani Yarbu' were a subsection of Bani Tamim. This Malik bin Nuwayra used to collect taxes for the Holy Prophet on behalf of Bani Hanbala. He would collect their taxes and he'd send them to Rasulullah in Medina. When Amir al-Mu'mineen was appointed on the day of Ghadir, Malik bin Nuwayra was sure that when I've heard the news that Rasulullah has died, our taxes will go to Ali ibn Abi Talib. But what was the news that came to him? The news that came to him was that Ali ibn Abi Talib has been removed and that Abu Bakr is the one who's taken over this. Malik bin Nuwayra said, very well, none of our zakat will reach that man, for that man was not the man chosen on the day of Ghadir. When this was heard, Khalid ibn al-Walid had gone on a killing spree, an absolute killing spree. That anyone who wants to debate me in Islamic history, they're more than welcome to debate me at any time about Khalid ibn al-Walid when Rasulullah died. Khalid ibn al-Walid, after Rasulullah died, the first killing spree he went on was the lovers of Ali ibn Abi Talib who wouldn't pay zakat to Abu Bakr. You see, if you study Islamic history today, you'll find a section called the Ridda Wars. Yes? The Ridda Wars, normally, they're meant to describe apostates who left Islam. Not at all. The Ridda Wars, half of them were Sahaba of Rasulullah who rejected Abu Bakr's Khilafah. Of them was Malik bin Nuwayra. When Khalid ibn al-Walid came face to face with Malik bin Nuwayra, he said to him, pay your zakat to Abu Bakr. He said, never. He said, why? He said, Rasulullah chose Ali ibn Abi Talib on the day of Ghadir. All of us were witnesses to him choosing him. There's no way at all that I'll go with that man ahead of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You know what Khalid ibn Walid done to him? Khalid ibn Walid executed him. Yes? A Sahabi of Rasulullah. You see, this measures of Sahaba I still don't understand until today. On the one hand, you could be a Sahabi, yes, because you saw Rasulullah, so you have to respect. But a Sahabi who leans to Ali ibn Abi Talib is not respected. This Malik bin Nuwayra was executed. But to add insult to injury, Malik was married to a beautiful lady by the name of Layla. You know what Khalid ibn Walid did? The same night he raped Layla. Yes? Exactly the same night Khalid ibn al-Walid raped Layla. When he raped Layla, of course, those who are apologetic for Khalid in the books of history say, no, he didn't rape her. He slept with her. Yes? He slept with her, didn't rape her. We reply by saying what? We reply by saying, but you would think a widow has an iddah period, correct or no? As in, if the husband's died, there is an iddah period for that widow. Let's say the iddah of a widow in Islam is how long? The iddah of the widow in Islam is 4 months and 10 days. Therefore, when someone comes and says, Khalid ibn Walid slept with Layla, well, either he's raped her, let's reject the rape, or he slept with her, she's still in her iddah, her husband has died. Abu Qatada al-Ansari, when he heard this, he went back to Abu Bakr. Abu Qatada was a companion of Rasulullah. He went back to Abu Bakr. He said to Abu Bakr, I have no relation with that Khalid. That Khalid ibn Walid is barbaric. Don't place me with him. This man has to be stoned, for he committed zina with the wife of a Muslim and he killed a Muslim as well. When the news reached Umar ibn al-Khattab, Umar and Khalid are first cousins. Yes? Both of them are Makhzumis. Correct or no? Both are Bani Makhzum. They're first cousins. Umar ibn al-Khattab took a vicious stance against Khalid. He told Abu Bakr, murder and adultery. The man has to be stoned. Abu Bakr can see that this man has committed murder. There's no doubt. Okay, forget the murder. He's committed adultery with someone's wife the same day. Abu Bakr turned around and said, how can I punish a man whose sword has been protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes? As in, that's the problem. If you're going to have a rule for some and another rule for another, that's not called a just government. That government is a government of injustice. Khalid ibn al-Walid, how could you say because his sword protected Islam? Even as a historian, I can destroy that argument, but anyway. How could you say that his sword protected the religion of Islam? Khalid ibn Walid attacks Malik bin Nuwayra, and then after that, does what? Sleeps with his wife. What did you find? You found that they killed him, but nothing happened to Khalid ibn al-Walid at all. No, on the contrary. Khalid ibn al-Walid continued where? Khalid ibn al-Walid continued to fight whom? To fight a battle which resulted in Abu Bakr compiling the Qur'an. Please understand this area. Khalid ibn al-Walid, the second battle he fought was against Musaylama al-Kadhab. Musaylama claimed to be a prophet, like the holy prophet, yes? Musaylama said Muhammad is a prophet for his tribe, and I am a prophet for my tribe. Of course, we believe Rasulullah is the final prophet of God. Nobody else can claim nubuwwah in his time. Musaylama said, no, I am a prophet of God. Muhammad's a prophet. Muhammad has his Qur'an. I have my Qur'an. And I will not pay zakat to Abu Bakr. I have no interest in paying zakat to anyone. This Musaylama, when he was talking like this, he even said, I have my own Qur'an. They asked him, how do you have your own Qur'an? He replied by saying, by the name of the elephant. And what's an elephant? And what makes you think of an elephant? It has a long trunk and a ropey tail. These are but the trifles of our Lord. So what have you offered mankind? All you've given us is a verse about an elephant. But he said that, you know what? The same way Muhammad can give you an ayah about an elephant, I can give you an ayah about an elephant as well. This Musaylama led a group of people to fight against Abu Bakr. Khalid ibn al-Walid, alongside Akrama, they fought a vicious battle known as the Battle of Yamama. I want all of you today, when you go back home, Google Battle of Yamama. Study that battle. That's one of the first battles after Rasulullah died. That battle, the Battle of Yamama, after the Holy Prophet had died, that battle, when it took place, why did it take place? It took place because of Musaylama al-Kadhab. Musaylama said, I don't believe in Abu Bakr. Not only I don't believe in Abu Bakr, I'm a prophet of Allah like Muhammad was. It was an absolutely vicious battle that took place. Do you know how many Muslims died in that battle? 960 Muslims died in that battle. And that Musaylama was a ferocious warrior. Do you know who ended up killing Musaylama al-Kadhab? Who ended up killing him? Wahshi, the killer of Hamza. Because you know Wahshi converted to the religion of Islam at the end of his life when Mecca was opened. Wahshi threw the same spear he threw on Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib on the day of Uhud. He threw the spear, Abu Dujan al-Ansari beheaded him, and you found that the Battle of Yamama was won. But there was a problem. At that battle, up to 400 memorizers of the Qur'an had died. Yes? 400 memorizers completely of the Qur'an. When they had died, the narration on Sahih al-Bukhari is an interesting narration. And this narration is why some people believe that Abu Bakr compiled the Qur'an. Why? Because the narration in Bukhari states that Zayd bin Thabit, he's the narrator, Zayd says that I was called in by Abu Bakr after the Battle of Yamama. When Zayd was called in, as we know, Zayd was one of the writers of the Qur'an with Ali ibn Abi Talib. They were the two main writers of the Qur'an. When Zayd was called in, Abu Bakr looked at him. He said, Umar ibn al-Khattab has said to me that in that Battle of Yamama, we have had a great number of casualties of memorizers of the Qur'an. Now, Zayd, you are a young man and a man of wisdom, and we want you to be the one who compiles the Qur'an for us. Zayd looked, he said, but oh Abu Bakr, how could I do something which Rasulullah didn't do? Umar looked at him and he tried to push Zayd and say to him, Zayd, you are the one who has to collect the Qur'an. You are one of the memorizers of the Qur'an. Again, the reply came, but Umar, how could I do something which Rasulullah did not do? And then Zayd says, and I thought to myself that how am I going to do something which the Prophet didn't do? Until Shaitan removed the rancor from my chest. Yes? Shaitan removed the rancor that existed in my chest. And I said, if Abu Bakr had given me the task of shifting a mountain to another mountain, that would have been easier for me than collecting the Quran, which Rasulullah did not do. Yes? So then he says that I went to Abu Khuzaymah. Abu Khuzaymah, I collected all the Quran, because you know the Quran was on parchments. It was either written on wood, or on silk, or on leather, or on white tablets, or on the ribs of an animal, or on the shoulders of an animal. So he went and he said, I collected everything until I was missing one ayah, Surah 9, verse 129, because you know these companions would all write the Quran in different places. So he said that I collected that ayah from Abu Khuzaymah, and I compiled the whole Quran for Abu Bakr. When Abu Bakr got this Quran, what did he do with it? He put the Quran in a treasure box. Yes, he put it there, and he said, now we the Muslims have an official Quran for us. Many people, when they read the story of the Battle of Yamama, assume that Abu Bakr collected the Quran. We reply by saying that yes, Abu Bakr may have collected the Quran, but he wasn't the first to compile the Quran. No. Abu Bakr had a fear that because so many memorizers of the Quran had died, he had a fear that there wouldn't be enough Qurans in the community at the time. So like the other Sahaba had their own Quran, he wanted a Quran compiled for his own use. You see, if that Quran was for the Muslim Ummah, then the people would have flocked to Abu Bakr to take the Quran. Abu Bakr, what did he do? When he took the Quran and compiled it, he wasn't the first to compile the Quran. Rather, after the Battle of Yamama, he ordered that the Quran is brought together for his own personal usage. Number two, what's interesting is what? What's interesting is Abu Bakr finds it important that the Quran is to be compiled just in case the Quran is lost. But the man who the Quran came to didn't think it was important to compile the Quran in his time. As in now you're saying that Abu Bakr said that it's important we compile the Quran because I fear we're going to lose it. But the man who the wahi came down upon didn't think it was important. It's like the poet says, they say it's important for us to choose a leader because we don't have a leader in our nation. But the man who bought the religion didn't think it was important to decide who a leader is. Therefore, that opinion that Abu Bakr was the first to compile the Quran because of the Battle of Yamama, no, that opinion is rejected. Abu Bakr, if we give the benefit of the doubt, even though Ayatollah al-Khou'i in the Proglomina makes it clear that there are 22 hadiths that show that it's contradictory that Abu Bakr was the first to compile the Quran. Yet what you find is that Abu Bakr, if anything, if we give the benefit of doubt, Abu Bakr felt there was a need for one Quran, which he wanted to preserve in his house. So he ordered Zayd bin Thabit to protect the Quran by collecting it. That first opinion, that Abu Bakr never collected the Quran, that one's rejected. The second opinion is what? The second opinion is that Uthman bin Affan compiled the Quran. And I want you to focus on this area importantly. Many Muslims today, if you ask them who compiled the Quran, they'll say to you Uthman. And even the Quran that we have with us today is called the Uthmani Codex. We all agree. No one rejects this. What does it mean, the Uthmani Codex? Does it mean that Uthman bin Affan was the first to collect the Quran? No, that's not the meaning. What's the meaning then of Mushaf Uthman? You see, at the time, there were 4 codexes of the Quran in the Islamic State. There was one in Damascus. There was one in Hifz. Yes? There was one also where there was one in the land of Kufa. Yes? You found that these Qur'ans were the official codexes by the year 20 after Hijrah. Rasulullah had died in the 11th year after Hijrah. 9 years after him, you had Qur'ans which were in different parts of the Islamic Empire. These Qur'ans did not have diacritical marks, nor did they have punctuation marks on them. So what began to happen was the people of the area would read according to their dialect. Yes? So if you had the Quran in Homs, yes, Miqdad ibn Amr, he had the Quran in Homs. Or for example, you had the Quran in Damascus with Ubay bin Ka'ab. Or you had the Quran where? In Basra, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Or you had the Quran in Kufa, Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Each one had a Quran in their local vicinity. Imagine today, all of you here, I say to you that I'm coming out with a book, yes? I want the people of Canada to have a book, the people of London, the people of Bombay, and the people of Hungary. The book is the same book. The pronunciation starts to become different sometimes, correct? The accents are different. by the 20th year after Hijrah. Because you know, the idea of Dhamma and Fatha and Tanween, that wasn't in the Quran in the time of Rasulullah. That came years after Rasulullah. You know, today in the Quran, you see the Tanween, and you see, for example, a Fatha or a Kasra. For example, when you see that, you think that was the original Quran? No, the original Quran had none of these. Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali brought this in. Then after him, you had people like Yahya bin Ya'mar. Then after him, Khalil bin Ahmad al-Farahidi. Otherwise, before that, you never had these. What you had was, you have a Quran, you send it to Damascus. You have another Quran, you send it to Basra. You have another Quran, you send it to where? To Kufa. You have another Quran, you send it to Homs. But the people of Kufa, do they have the same accent as the people of Damascus or no? As in the Iraqi brothers over here, they'll know better than anyone that the person in Kufa, his accent is even different, for example, from the person in Samarra. Correct or no? You'll have someone in Kufa, or even you may have someone in Najaf whose accent is different from someone in Baghdad. Correct or no? You found that these Qur'ans, when they were in different parts of the country, what happened was, Hudayf al-Yaman came to Uthman bin Affan. He said, listen, the Syrian and Iraqi Muslims are going to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. And I have a fear that now that Islam has spread to Armenia and Azerbaijan, the way they're going to read the Quran will mean that the Quran will be preserved according to dialect. If the Quran is preserved according to dialect, the words of the Quran slowly start changing, don't they? So what happened was, when there was the different dialects, Hudayfa said to Uthman, he said to him, oh Uthman, we have to preserve the Quran. Otherwise, I'm scared that the Jews and the Christians, what happened with them with the Torah and the Bible, we're going to lose the Quran in the same way. Uthman bin Affan, hearing this, thought to himself, this is true. If you're going to have a Quran in Damascus, and a Quran in Kufa, and a Quran in Basra, these qaris of the Quran, each one's going to pronounce the words in a different way. Let me give you an example. You had one person who took the ayah in the Quran, فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ أَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا, correct? You had one person, because of his accent, he was saying, فَأَمْهِلِ الْكَافِرِينَ أَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. Yes? His accent was saying it so quick that people started thinking the verse was, فَأَمْهِلِ الْكَافِرِينَ. The verse is what? فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ أَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. But when the Quran was going to these different lands, the dialect was affecting the pronunciation. Uthman, what did he do? He made a committee of 4 companions. Who? He brought in Abdul Rahman bin Harith. He brought in Zayd bin Thabit. He brought in Sa'id ibn al-As. He brought them in, and he brought the 4th one, Abdullah ibn Zubair. Yes? He brought all 4 of them, and he said, we need an official Quran, which is to be used by everyone in the Muslim world, according to the Quraysh dialect. Not according to Basra and Kufa. No. According to the dialect of the Quraysh. The Quran we have with us today is a Qurayshi dialect Quran. Means that in the same way the Quran came to the Quraysh, its dialect has to be in that way. He then appointed another 7 companions. There was about a total of 11 of them. Some narrations say another 4 companions. They sat and they made sure that there was one official Quran. They asked him, oh Khalifa, what should we do to the other Qurans? He said, burn all the other Qurans. Yes? Now, burning all the other Qurans is an area of controversy. Why? Because to many, to burn the Quran is an act which is haram. As in, we only thought people in Florida do these things. You found that to burn the Quran is an act which is seen as what? An act which is seen as haram. Uthman bin Affan felt, if you kept the Quran spreading in houses, and people were reading it according to their dialects, without an official Quran, according to Quraysh, then what's going to happen? There's going to be mass deviation. And even I've read 2 hadiths from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen on this issue, where he says that Uthman asked us and we agreed with his act. And another hadith where he says, if I was in charge, then the same act would have been done. Therefore, you found someone will say, but you can't do it. The Quran is being burnt. No, for the safety of the protection of Allah's words, some of these are secondary exceptions. You don't burn the Quran when you want to insult the Quran. That's something unacceptable. But when you want to protect it, then that's in the hands of the man of that time. So what did he do? He made sure there was a Quran for each area according to Quraysh dialogue. He sent a Quran to Yemen, a Quran to Basra, and with each Quran, he sent a Qari. Please focus on this. Uthman, with each Quran, he sent a Qari. Why? I could send you the same Qur'an, but you need to hear me recite it again. True or no? If I now send you a Qur'an, you'll say, yeah, but it's the same Qur'an that we had before. No, this time he sends a Qari with the Qur'an. When you send a Qari like Amir bin Abdul Qais to Basra, or Mughira bin Shahab to Damascus, or for example, Abdullah ibn Sa'ib to Mecca, or for example, Abu Abdul Rahman al-Sulami to Kufa, when you send these Qur'ans, you send the Qari with the Qur'an. So that when the people read, they read it in the dialect of whom? In the dialect of the Quraysh. Therefore, did Uthman bin Affan compile the Qur'an? No. Uthman standardized the Qur'an into one official codex. That's why the Qur'an that you see with us today, they call it Mushaf Uthman. Mushaf Uthman doesn't mean he compiled the Qur'an. It meant that he made sure the Qur'an was read according to the Qurayshi dialect. Therefore, if Abu Bakr didn't compile the Qur'an, and if Uthman didn't compile the Qur'an, who in our opinion compiled the Qur'an? The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Holy Prophet was the man who compiled the Qur'an, without a doubt. The whole Qur'an was compiled in the time of Rasulullah. You see, I'm surprised when people say to me, Abu Bakr, I'm surprised. Why? Because Abu Bakr knows it's important to compile. But the man who Jibreel descended upon doesn't know it's important, as in Rasulullah doesn't know. And there are numerous proofs that Rasulullah compiled the Qur'an. Of them, if you were to mention just a few of them, number one, Jibreel. When the Holy Prophet would say, Jibreel normally comes upon me once a year to have an overview of the Qur'an, but this year he has come twice, and I think this is my final year. In the final year of his life, when Jibreel came twice, Rasulullah realized that this is the final year of his life because Jibreel had come twice to check the whole Qur'an. When he says that, what does that mean? That means that Jibreel every year would come to him to tell him that I want to look at everything that's been compiled, until in the last year of his life he came twice to check the compilation was complete. Even in another hadith, Rasulullah would say, I pointed to the companions where the last ayah of the Qur'an should go. Yes? The last ayah of the Qur'an, which many believe, Surah 2, verse 282, verse 282 of Surah Al-Baqarah, he said, I'm the one who pointed where it should be. Had Rasulullah not compiled the Qur'an, why would he say, I'm the one pointing where the Qur'an should all be? Correct or no? That's number two. Number three, the word kitab in the Qur'an is different from the word Qur'an. Qur'an indicates reciting. Yes? Qira'ah. Kitab indicates a book whose pages are not scattered. When Allah says, Alif Lam Mim, Dhalikal Kitab, Allah wants this book to make sure that it's compiled now, not left for compilation in the hands of people after Rasulullah. Number three, Rasulullah, if I now tell you I'm leaving something behind for you, doesn't that mean that it's in your hands? Yes? If I'm leaving home to go on a journey, I say I'm leaving, inni tarikun fikum, I'm leaving something behind. That means that there's something at home. There's no point in me saying, you know what, I'm leaving something behind, but it's going to come back to you in about 7 years. Doesn't make any sense. Therefore, when Rasulullah said, I leave behind the Qur'an and my Ahlul Bayt. When he said, I leave behind the Qur'an, that means I leave behind a book compiled in my time. Yes? If it was compiled by Abu Bakr or by Uthman, what's the point of saying, Inni tarikun fikum al-thaqalain, and the Qur'an is coming in the time of Abu Bakr and Uthman? When I say I'm leaving behind for you the Qur'an, that means I supervise the Qur'an. Yes? Rasulun min Allah yatlu suhufan mutahhara. That it's a Lord, a prophet from Allah who recites for them what? Who recites the pure verses. But arguably the clearest proof that the Qur'an was recited and completed under the supervision, compiled in the time of Rasulullah is from Umar ibn al-Khattab. Someone says, how? Because when Rasulullah was dying, what did he say? He said, give me a pen and paper and I will write for you that way you will never go astray. Correct or no? When he said that, and inshallah we'll continue with that analysis, when he said that, he said, I leave behind for you, I want to write for you that where you will not go astray. Of course, if my dad, my own father, said to me, I want to write for you something where you won't go astray, I promise I will make sure that my dad is given a pen and a paper and protected and honored. When Rasulullah said to him, the man turned around and said, you are delirious. Hasbuna what? Kitab Allah. Enough for us is the book of Allah. If the book hasn't been compiled, then he wouldn't say that. Correct? The fact that he says that the kitab is present means that the book was present in his time when Rasulullah was dying. The whole Qur'an was there present. When Umar says the Qur'an is sufficient for us, it doesn't mean that he's waiting for a Qur'an to be collected. It means that Umar knows in the time of Rasulullah has left behind the Qur'an for the Muslim Ummah. And that's the belief of the school of Ahlul Bayt. That in our belief, Allah had gathered for him the Qur'an, as the Qur'an says in Surah 75 verse 16, Inna alayna jam'ahu wa Qur'ana. On us, it's its compilation and its recital. Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. We send down the reminder and we will protect it. In other words, the Qur'an was compiled in the time of Rasulullah. He supervised the compilation. Ali ibn Abi Talib and Zayd bin Thabit, they'd be the ones who'd write the Qur'an under his supervision, until at the end you had companions like Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Zayd bin Thabit, Mu'adh bin Jabal, Abu Darda, Ubay bin Ka'ab. All of them had a Qur'an in their house. There wasn't just one Qur'an. No, there was a number of Qur'ans. All the companions were writing whenever an ayah came. If there was only one Qur'an, we're in trouble. There was a number of Qur'ans, and each of them were protected by the Holy Prophet. Somebody asked the question, if Uthman protected the Qur'an by making sure it was in one dialect, then why did the Muslims kill Uthman bin Affan? Yes, this is an important question. That if Uthman had played such a major role, making sure that the dialect of the Quraysh was the dialect of the Qur'an, then why did they kill him? They killed him because any Muslim community wants their caliph to be someone who they can relate to, someone approachable, someone who hasn't put nepotism in his government, correct or no? They don't want the person to be someone who has only put people in power who are his own family and friends. And that was the problem with Uthman bin Affan's government. As in Muhammad Qutb writes in Social Justice in Islam, a fantastic book I recommend all of you to read. Sayyid Muhammad Qutb of Egypt had written Social Justice in Islam. He says Uthman bin Affan's nepotism led to his downfall. That even though he made sure the Quran was in one dialect and that everybody benefits from the Quran, which he had at the time, he says his nepotism was something phenomenal. And you know what type of nepotism? When you bring back people like Marwan ibn al-Hakam, yes? You bring back Walid ibn Uqba, you bring back Samara bin Jundub, you bring back Abdullah bin Abi Sarh. You know these people what they are? This is the enemies of Rasulullah. All of them came back in Uthman's government. Imagine, Rasulullah had exiled Marwan ibn al-Hakam. He had exiled Walid bin Uqba. He had exiled Abdullah bin Abi Sarh. He had exiled Samara bin Jundub. Why did Rasulullah exile? You think the Holy Prophet, a man of mercy, would just exile for no reason? He exiled because these people were the very enemies of the religion of Islam. People like Samara bin Jundub, arrogant of the arrogant. Walid bin Uqba, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun. This was a fasiq. People like Marwan ibn al-Hakam, the very poison in the religion of Islam, correct? And you think Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib didn't try and warn Uthman? Imam told him, Uthman, you are a man who has put the Quran in one dialect. You are a man who has looked after the Quran in your own way. Don't ruin yourself. Remain uptight, remain firm. You listen to Marwan ibn al-Hakam for advice. Marwan ibn al-Hakam, who's an enemy of the religion of Islam. He said to him, don't go down that road. Uthman bin Affan at the beginning listened. Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein even stood by the door of Uthman, protecting him from those who wanted to kill him. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib didn't want there to be disunity in the Ummah. Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein stood at the door of Uthman, even served him water when he was thirsty. They came back to Amir al-Mu'mineen thinking Uthman had changed his mind. He never changed his mind one bit. No. You know what Uthman did? He listened to Marwan ibn al-Hakam. He said arrogantly, how dare all of you try and depose me and the rest of Bani Umayyah from our position? Because what is he? He's Bani Umayyah. Uthman bin Affan is an Umayyad. From one angle, you found that he said, none of you will depose us. Who ended up killing him? This is ironic. Do you know who ended up killing him? The same Sahaba who grew up with him in Medina. You see, when you tell me all the Sahaba are going to Jannah, I can't wait until some of these meet each other, honestly. Because some of these, when they're going to meet each other, he's going to look at him, he's going to say, hold on, are you here? As in, like, I killed you. I say, how are we both here? You know, the person, when he says, for example, you have a person who says, Sayyidina Muawiyah and Sayyidina Hujr. Yes, you've heard that line? That our master Muawiyah and our master Hujr. What do you mean our master Muawiyah and our master Hujr? What are you talking about? Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan ordered the killing of Hujr bin Adi. Inshallah, tomorrow my book will be on sale here tomorrow on Hujr bin Adi, where you examine the whole narration of Hujr bin Adi and how Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan ordered his killing. You found, for example, they say Sayyidina Muawiyah and Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir, yes? Or you say, for example, Sayyidina Uthman and Sayyidina Muhammad bin Abi Hudayfa. Muhammad bin Abi Hudayfa gave a pledge to Rasulullah under the tree, yes? At the Bay'ah of Ridwan. And our brothers say, whoever gave a pledge to Rasulullah in the Bay'ah of Ridwan goes to Jannah. So the killer and the killed are both going to Jannah. You found that it was the very Sahaba of Rasulullah. Why? Because they realized that this man, instead of being approachable as the Khalifa, they realized that this man, no, is arrogant at the top of the Muslim world. The nepotism has got to him. And I say this to you sincerely, my dear brothers. I don't sit here as a Shia speaker trying to simply attack another Khalifa of the religion of Islam. No, I don't come here to attack Uthman bin Affan because I'm a follower of the school of Ahlul Bayt. No, I come here as a historian. As a historian. You can read the books of history. When you see Marwan and Samara and Walid come back to Islam, you have to be rational in your judgment. When a man brings people like this back, then what do you expect of that man? And that was the difference between him and Ali ibn Abi Talib. Why? Ali ibn Abi Talib, there was no nepotism in his government at all. Ali ibn Abi Talib, the people he appointed, people like, for example, Umar bin Muqrin, Uthman bin Hunayf, Malik al-Ashtar. None of these are related to Ali ibn Abi Talib. And that's what made people envious. Talha and Zubair were envious. That's why we are your family, Zubair said. And you put Malik al-Ashtar, you put Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib said, no, it's not the way. We don't put family members in government. We don't want nepotism. Put the people in who are people of honor, people of dignity, people of justice. Let the poor and the rich feel welcome in the government, that we don't neglect any of them. Each and every one of them, black or white, woman, male, female, all of them in our government are honored. And primarily, we make sure the government is a government of justice, that the poorest person on the street or the richest person on the street, all of them feel accountable, that the Khalifa does not look at them with different eyes, but looks at them with the same eyes. That the Khalifa doesn't look at them with the different blood. All of them have the same blood in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what endeared people to Ali ibn Abi Talib's love. That people loved that he was just as a Khalifa. And that's why on a night like this, the night of the 22nd, you find that it was only on a day like this that Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam and Imam al-Hussein had to go and bury their father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Yes? You find, what did the narrations say to us? The narrations say to us that it was on a night like this that they had gone to bury their father. Where is he buried? He's buried in Najaf, of course. But where was he killed? In the mosque in Kufa. Many ask the question, the distance between Masjid al-Kufa or Jami' al-Kufa to the Haram in Najaf is about 25 minutes by coach. So how could Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein have taken his janazah when the janazah is at such a long distance? It's a very important question. The answer is that Imam Ali had already told them, you hold the back of the janazah and at the front there will be unseen forces sent to carry my body. Correct? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent the malaika to carry the janazah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then he said to Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein, you will find a piece of land where it says this grave has been dug for the servant of Allah, Ali ibn Abi Talib, from Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. Yes? That Nabi Nuh alayhi salam is the one who had dug the grave of Ali ibn Abi Talib from his time when he was alive. He had dug a specific grave, and that's why on one side of Imam Ali is Nabi Nuh, on the other side is Nabi Adam alayhi salam. And on a night like this, Zainab sits alone in her house remembering her father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. That was the second of the masa'ib that Sayyidah Zainab saw. The first was the door crushing her mother's ribs. The second was seeing her father being led away. Yes? The third was whom? The third was having to see Imam al-Hasan vomit out his liver into that bowl. But the fourth is the fourth, when she sees Shimr sit on the chest of her brother. But that night was a difficult night without a doubt, that Sayyidah Zainab bids farewell to her father. But one narration in particular hurts us very much. Which narration? The narration mentions that they had buried their father and they were now returning back home. Imam al-Hasan, without a doubt, the tears were flowing from his eyes, yes? And when he was returning back home, he saw a man lying on the streets. When he saw this man lying on the streets, he wondered. He looked at the man was a blind man. So Imam al-Hasan had come towards him. He said to him, oh man, what's wrong with you? Why do you cry? I tell you, what this man replied shows you what Ali ibn Abi Talib is. He looked towards Imam al-Hasan. He said to him, I cry because every night in the month of Ramadan, a man used to come and feed me in the middle of the night. Allahu Akbar. Every night in the month of Ramadan, a man used to come and feed me in the middle of the night. But for 3 nights, I haven't been near that man, nor has the man come to me. I beg you, do you know who that man is? Does he know who the man is? Without a doubt, Imam replies, that man is my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, who used to come and feed you in the middle of the night every night. He said to him, where is your father now? He said, we went to bury him under the ground. The man began to cry when he remembered Ali ibn Abi Talib. When they returned back home, Sayyidah Zainab was with her husband Abdullah bin Ja'far. She was crying. Yes, any daughter, if you let go of your daughter, it's the most difficult moment for any father. Yes, having to let your daughter leave the house is difficult. Having never to see your daughter again is difficult. But likewise for the daughter it's difficult. Yes, she was crying incessantly that night. Imam al-Hussein had to console her. Yes, but who was there to console Zainab on the night of the 11th of Muharram? When she was alone on the ground in Karbala, there was no one to console her. She was in the middle of what sounded like a bit of sleep. She hadn't slept the whole day. Yes, she was in the middle of a sleep. She narrates, I saw a man wearing black. That man was on the horse. I saw him coming towards me. I looked towards him. I said to him, oh man, I beg you, Sukaina has had nothing to drink. Ruqayya has been left alone. Abbas lies on the ground. Oh man, I don't know who you are, but I don't have anything to give you. The man looked at her and he said to her, Zainab, don't you recognize your father Ali ibn Abi Talib in front of you? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.